If today feels different, like something has finally clicked, like you can't stay still the same way anymore, this isn't random. Something has shifted. Not subtly, not gradually, but in a way that changes how your energy moves. You might feel it as a sudden surge, a push to act, to decide, to move forward without overthinking. Things that felt unclear before suddenly feel more direct. Not necessarily easier, but clearer in a different way. Like hesitation has dropped and something more instinctive has taken its place. You may notice your patience is lower today, less tolerance for delay, less interest in waiting, less willingness to sit in uncertainty. And instead, there's a pull toward action, toward doing something instead of thinking about it. Even small things may feel sharper, more immediate, more real, more demanding of your response. And that can feel powerful, but also intense. Because this kind of energy doesn't ask for permission, it moves. This shift is coming from Mars entering Aries. And when Mars enters its home sign, everything changes. Energy becomes direct, focused, action-oriented. There's no more build-up, no more waiting, just movement. And that's what you're feeling now. The transition from holding to acting, from preparing to initiating, from thinking to doing. But here's what matters. Just because the energy is ready to move doesn't mean every direction is aligned. Because when movement becomes easy, reaction becomes easy too. And that's where awareness is still required. So if you feel this surge today, this clarity, this urgency, this need to move, recognize it for what it is. Not pressure, not confusion, but activation. The moment where energy stops building and finally begins to act.
What you're feeling right now is not just motivation. It's a fundamental shift in how your energy operates. For the past several days, everything has been building. Pressure without release, restlessness without direction, a sense that something needed to happen, but not knowing how or when. That phase is over. Mars has entered Aries, and when that happens, energy doesn't wait, it initiates. Mars is the force of action, the part of you that moves without needing full certainty. And Aries is where that force becomes immediate. There's no delay, no hesitation, no extended processing, just impulse translated directly into movement. So what you're experiencing today is the removal of resistance. The gap between thought and action has shortened. The hesitation you felt before has weakened, and what remains is a more direct line between what you feel and what you do. That's why things feel clearer, not because you've analyzed everything, but because the need to analyze has reduced. You're no longer waiting for perfect understanding. You're moving based on instinct, and instinct feels different. It's faster, sharper, more decisive. But it also carries risk because instinct doesn't always pause to check alignment. It moves first and reflects later. So while this energy creates clarity, it also removes filters. You might say things more directly today, act more quickly, make decisions with less hesitation. And in many ways, that's exactly what this energy is for, to break stagnation, to initiate change, to move forward where you've been holding back. But the intensity of this shift can also override awareness, because when movement feels this natural, it's easy to assume everything you're doing is correct, and that's not always the case. Some actions will be aligned, clean, direct, necessary, but others may simply be reactions to the sudden availability of energy. That's why today is powerful, but not neutral, because this energy amplifies action without automatically guiding direction. So what you're feeling is not just readiness, It's access. Access to movement, to decision, to change. And what you do with that access determines whether this becomes progress or unnecessary disruption.
This is the point where power can turn into impulsiveness. Because when energy becomes this immediate, you don't just feel ready, you feel certain. And that certainty can be misleading. You might believe that because something feels clear, it must be right. That because the hesitation is gone, the decision is aligned. But that's not always true. What's actually happening is that the space between impulse and action has been reduced. So everything feels more direct, more obvious, more urgent. And urgency can imitate clarity. It can make something feel like it needs to happen now. It can create a sense that waiting would be a mistake, that if you don't act immediately, you'll miss something. And that's the first trap. Mistaking speed for alignment. You might notice yourself reacting faster than usual, responding before fully listening, deciding before fully considering, moving before fully feeling. And in the moment, it can feel right because the energy supports it. But later, there can be a disconnect, a sense that something was slightly off. Not completely wrong, but not fully grounded either. That's because impulse doesn't check for alignment. It checks for release. And today, release is easy. So the second trap is overcorrecting. Trying to act on everything at once. Starting multiple things, shifting directions quickly, saying yes before understanding the full impact. Because when energy is high, capacity can feel unlimited, but it isn't. And when you move too quickly, you create friction later. Not because the action itself was wrong, but because the timing wasn't integrated. There's also a more subtle pattern today. Reactivity in communication. You may feel more direct, more honest, more willing to say what you've been holding back, and that can be powerful. But without awareness, it can become sharp, unfiltered, more about release than true expression. So the real calibration today is not about stopping yourself. It's about slowing down just enough to stay connected while you move. Because aligned action still feels clear, but it doesn't push you. It doesn't demand immediacy. It doesn't disappear if you take a moment. So if something feels like it has to happen right now, pause, even briefly, and notice what changes. Because what is truly aligned will remain steady, but what is driven by impulse will either fade or intensify in a way that reveals its instability. And that difference is what determines how you move through today.
So how do you work with this kind of energy without letting it take control of you? You don't slow the energy down. You stabilize yourself within it. Because this energy is meant to move. It's meant to initiate, to break inertia, to push you forward where you've been holding back. Trying to suppress it will only create frustration, but letting it run unchecked creates chaos. So the focus today is control without resistance. Start by choosing direction before increasing speed. Just because you can move quickly doesn't mean you should move everywhere at once. So narrow your focus. Pick one thing, one decision, one action, one direction that feels the most grounded, and commit your energy there. Because this kind of energy works best when it's concentrated, not scattered. You can also use structure to stabilize yourself. Simple boundaries. Decide what you're not going to act on today. Not every impulse needs a response. Not every idea needs execution. Let some things wait. Because what matters most will stay clear, and what doesn't will fade without needing your attention. You can also regulate your pace through awareness, not by forcing yourself to slow down completely,
but by inserting small moments of control. Before you act, check your state. Are you steady or are you reacting? Are you choosing or are you releasing pressure? That check-in doesn't take long, but it changes everything, because it keeps your actions connected to your awareness. You may also notice that physical movement helps today, but not chaotic movement, directed movement. Walking with intention, completing tasks with focus, engaging your body in a controlled way. This allows the energy to flow without becoming overwhelming. And as you move through the day, keep returning to one simple principle. Clarity first, then action, not the other way around. Because when you act from clarity, your movement builds momentum. But when you act from impulse, your movement creates fragmentation. So you don't need to stop this energy, you just need to guide it. And when you do, this becomes one of the most powerful days for real, tangible progress.
Let everything settle for a moment. Not the energy itself, but your relationship to it. Because the energy is still here, active, available, ready to move. But you don't have to follow every impulse it creates. You can choose how you engage with it. So take a breath. Steady, controlled, unforced. And notice what remains when you're not reacting immediately. There's a different kind of clarity there. Not loud, not urgent, but stable. And that stability is what allows this energy to work for you instead of against you. Because the goal today is not just movement, it's effective movement. Movement that actually leads somewhere. Not just action for the sake of action. So as you move through the rest of your day, keep returning to that point of awareness. Before you act, pause. Not to hesitate, but to align. Feel where the action is coming from. Is it steady? Or is it trying to release something quickly? Because that difference determines the outcome. And you'll notice something. When you don't react immediately, the unnecessary impulses fall away. What remains is simpler, clearer, more direct, and easier to act on without second guessing. That's how you know you're aligned. Not because the energy is strong, but because your direction is stable within it. So you don't need to chase movement today. It's already available. You just need to choose it with awareness. And if you can hold that, even for a few moments at a time, you begin to move differently, more intentionally, more effectively, more in control of where your energy goes. And that changes everything. So if this helped you stay grounded while everything around you sped up, keep that with you. Return to it when the intensity rises again. And if you want to keep moving through these shifts with clarity and control, you can come back here each day, not to be told what to do, but to stay aligned with how you move.